Well, hello everyone. This is Robin Carter. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator out of Flower Mound, Texas, and today I'm here to share my third video of alternatives with the August 2023 paper pumpkin kit named Meaningful Flowers. Now, if you missed my other two, I did alternatives using the Forget-Me-Not flowers and envelope, and today I'm going to be sharing three alternatives using just the Lotus envelope, as well as showing you how to get the adhesive off the flap of the envelope. So if you are brand new to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button below. And those of you that have already subscribed, thank you so much and welcome back to my channel. Now, before we get started, I wanted to give a little preview of the September paper pumpkin kit. Usually in the past, we had gotten a flyer promoting the next month's kit. So I have a photo that I want to share with everyone that shows the kit in the kit preview sneak peeks that we get. Now, they did quite a lot. So let me switch my computer screen so you can see that. Okay, so here is the preview of what we get for the September paper pumpkin kit. It's called From the Heart, I think, and it was inspired by the founder Shelley. Now, if you've been a paper pumpkin subscriber for a while, I know she did one several years ago and it was beautiful, and as you can see from the preview, I think this one's going to be beautiful as well. So you can see there that the cards are going to be smaller than the A2 normal size cards. However, just from looking at the envelopes, I can tell you I'm probably going to be tearing those open and creating regular A2 cards from that. I like how they give us a little preview of the die cuts and even the stamp set as well. So we have quite a big preview. On the right hand side, you can see that there is a journal that they call it the add-on. It has nothing to do with the cards, but if you are a person that likes to journal, that is available for purchase through the online store. All right, let me get me back. All right, so I'm back with you. So I hope you enjoyed that little preview. And so let's get started. I only have one envelope left. I had technical difficulties yesterday trying to get this out. Like my computer froze and I thought the video froze, but it did not. So let's get started and hopefully today will go smoothly. All right, so as I said, we're going to be using this envelope in your kit. So it's the one that has the Lotus on the front. And so first we're going to open it up. And so you've probably seen me open these up if you've seen my unboxing videos. But if you haven't, I thought I would just do it here. And we'll turn my trimmer sideways so you can kind of see both ends. All right, so what I do is if I'm putting paper against this ledge, I want to cut down like that. And then if you press it on this edge, you want to press up. And this just helps you not accidentally your paper turn. Okay, so that opens up the envelope. So what you want to do is cut off this flap. And if you're using this kind of trimmer, you probably don't want to go right on the score line as it will fray, especially if your blade is dull. So keep this piece. This is going to be for one card. Set it aside. I'm going to go ahead and stick it in my little pocket that we'll be making this card from. Now these pockets are my 5x7, and they're what I call part of my favorite things. So I'll be sharing quite a few things along the video that I use that help me organize my supplies and hopefully keep from losing everything. Okay, so once we have cut off the bottom, now we want to get the adhesive off. If you wanted to try to go ahead and round it, you can. I'm going to wait until we actually start making the card. So I'm going to get out my silicone mat just so I don't get my surface wet. And then you want to get out a slightly damp paper towel. And I've already wet this one and wrung it out pretty well. So it's just barely damp or lightly damp. And then just kind of go on the adhesive part lightly. Okay. You will probably get up some color when you do this, but I haven't seen that it's been a lot. So I'm going to dab a little bit, just try to get the wetness on there. Okay, and then I can start to see some of the shine go away. So that means I'm getting the adhesive. There's some right there. And I hope my head's not in the camera. All right. Okay, so I think mine is pretty good. All right, so it is going to be damp for a little bit, so I'm going to set it aside to dry while we move on to the components. Okay, so in here, so this is the card we're going to make with the top part of the envelope. So let me get them out of their plastic sleeves so you don't get a lot of shine. So I'm not a big fan of the die cut of the lily pad or the lotus flower that came in the kit. I much prefer to stamp my own. And so another thing we're going to use is the Painted Textures embossing folder. And then I've already pre-stamped a label and the lotus flowers. Now, I have a scan and cut, and so I like to create the white pieces and then line them up in my Stamparatus. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, this video is a little longer than normal, so I pre-did a lot of material to try to not take up too much of your time. To get this look, I stamped it actually twice in Melon Mambo to get a real strong look. And then after I stamped the second one, I took a blending brush. Okay, and then I just blended on some pink over the top to help fill in the white spots. So that's how I got the look of my lotus flowers. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and try to trim this and make it square. Even though it's wet, I hope it does okay. I pre-did too much for this card. But I also have some labels, and my labels I like to keep in, these are the 3x5 kind of index card size type envelopes. And like I said, these are part of my favorite things. And in my video description below, if you click more, you will see links to these products, as well as a list of my favorite things. One thing that I really like are these 7x9 envelopes, so I can get rid of the box pretty quickly and put all my supplies in this envelope. So it's the 7x9 down below. All right, I'm hoping that dries quickly. All right, so let's try to kind of start rounding it. Let me get in the video there for you. So one of them I took off a whole lot more than I needed to. So let's see how this cuts. Stamp. Doing okay. If you're going to make these, you may want to wait a little bit longer. So I know I want this front piece to be, I see one thing I did not cut, 1/8 of an inch less than my border. Let me get out my pretty peacock. Cardstock, sorry about that. And don't go ahead and cut a layer while this continues to dry a little bit more. So I like to have a little border of my card base around my cards, as you can see. So I cut them 1/8 of an inch smaller. And when you cut, you want your trimmer to be flat. You don't want anything underneath it. So I'm going to cut this at 4 1/8 this way. And then 5 3/8 this way. I tend to always use a white card base. I know you can make card bases out of the thick cardstock. I just prefer doing a white and then adding the color that I want. All right, so I'm going to adhere this to my card. Now I pre-make a whole bunch of card bases, and as you can see, I keep those in this kind of envelope too, so I have them handy. And then let me preview This is coming up in the holiday catalog. You may miss it. It's not really highlighted, but the full card base is like this. Ooh, that's shiny. And then I showed you how when I use them, I will probably cut them in half. So from each card base, you can get 2 pretty shiny gold foiled card fronts. And then the envelopes are coordinate as well. Let me look at one of those. So if you wanted to cut that up, you could, or you could just keep it as your pretty envelope. So that's coming up in the holiday catalog. And speaking of the holiday catalog, you can start ordering from it on September 6th, and this host code will still be active. So anyone who does not have a demonstrator, or if you want to purchase any of these products, I also saw a refill for this kit as well as the add-on for next month. I'd really appreciate it if you use my host code, and any orders of $75 or more will receive a special gift from me. There's also a link, if you do not have a demonstrator, of how to subscribe for Paper Pumpkin. The deadline for that September kit that I previewed is September 10th. So don't miss out on that kit. I think it's going to be beautiful. All right, back to the cards. Thought I'd give you all that information while my envelope dries. Okay, now I've showed in the past how you can save on cardstock and cut out the center, but when I use envelopes as the DSP, it's a real thin paper, so I don't generally cut out the fronts when I'm doing layers for the envelopes. I think they need the support because it is a thinner envelope. Okay, so I've got that pretty centered on there. And so since this was 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, I want to cut this at least 1/8 of an inch smaller. Let me get my trimmer back out. Everything loves to disappear when I do a video. All right, I stuck it with my cardstock. All right, so let's feel. Okay, it's pretty dry now, so I feel comfortable cutting. So you want to start just by cutting a little off each side. And I can see I'm right at 5 1/8. You kind of want to just start cutting to see where it's going to be square. I know I'm going to want it smaller than that. And then you can also decide which side you want to cut more at. Okay, you can either cut more off the top if you want more at the bottom, because we're going to be using the bottom for another alternate as well. I'm going to cut a little more of my lilies off. And now it's pretty square. Maybe just a little bit more, but let's see how wide we have it. I want this to be 5, so I can take a little off each side. I'm going to cut it off the right-hand side. And I can't do it that way. Let's see. Okay, so now we have this 5 inches wide, and we want it to be 4 inches tall. Okay, so save this for a card as well. It's going to be one of the 3. You're probably like, that's silly, but you'll see later. So if you can stick with me, I do share lots of tips and tricks along the way. Now I can see that this is quite a bit not as wide. Let's see, did I make that 5? It is. So this one needs to be 3 7/8, I think. All right, let's cut more off the bottom so that it's more symmetrical. 3 7/8 is where I'm cutting. Okay, that's a lot closer. So I'm going to be happy with that, even though this appears to be a little wider. Okay, so before I adhere this, I want to emboss this to try to get rid of that score line in there. So like I said, I'm going to use the embossing folder. So I'm going to have to get out my big die cut and emboss machine. And it's going to be right up against the camera, so I hope you can see. I'm going to do it diagonal so you can hopefully see. So when you use a 3D folder, you're going to use your 1 base plate and also your gray number 4 plate. Now when you don't have a 3D folder, if you just have a regular, you just stick it between 2 clear plates. Now as you can see here, I like to keep 2 brand new clear plates available for embossing, just so they're nice and flat and smooth. So I just label them here so I know not to cut with these. There's just a little tip. Okay, and then when you run your embossing folders through, especially these, now the full-size ones, you don't have any wiggle room, but when I run these through, I tend to like to run them not straight on, a little turn to one side or the other, just like I do when I have a square die or something. It just seems to run through smoother and you don't get the pop. Now I'm going to run this. I hope to try not to shake the table too much because my camera is attached to my table. All right. So we did that, and I'm going to get this out of the way so we can get started. Okay, so now we have an embossed piece. The line is not as visible, and I think it also kind of gives it a water look. So I'm happy with that, so I'm going to adhere that down. And when you adhere envelope paper, just like I said, it's fairly thin. Less glue is better, and that's where I really like to use these fine tip glue pens. It helps control the amount of glue that comes out, and these are part of my favorite things as well. All right, so let's actually make sure you have the card going the right way. I've done them backwards before. Okay. My mat is not equal on all 4 sides, but I think it's still going to turn out well. Okay, I probably should have measured twice and cut once. All right, so as you can see from the ones I made, I wanted to make the stamp lilies, and I was really happy that they included these distinctive stamps for us. Now I've already stamped a sentiment, and this comes from the stamp set that was inspired by Rachel Tesman for her $1 million dollar sales achievement, and this is a favorite one of mine. I love that it goes with the bow punch here, and then it has some great sentiments for any occasion. So I just chose this one, and the die that I used was from the All That dies, and I showed you those earlier when I showed you the 3x5 envelopes, but here's the dies themselves. It's one of my favorites because they do add embossing around each die. So if you need some basic dies, that's a good one to add to your stash. Now I wanted to also stamp my own lily pad. Here's my All That dies. I pre-cut a whole bunch of them and have them in these envelopes so that when I need a label, I have it ready to go. All right, so we're going to make a lily pad for this one, and you'll get to see how I have my stuff set up. So this is for the next cards. So I'm going to use the Stamparatus, and as many of you know, Stampin' Up! Was no longer able to sell it because of some legal issues. And but I have one, and a lot of my customers have one, so I'm going to continue to use it. It's my favorite. And there are other stamp positioners available, and it would work about the same as this. So what I do, like I said, I do have a scan and cut. So I cut one that I've stamped in just black and have a negative piece. And then I'm able to use the software that they have with that and make a whole lot of blank white ones. And I have those here. So we're going to make our lily pad. I figured it was easier than making 3 flowers, so I pre-made those. All right, so I stick it after I have it positioned. then I have it ready to go, and we're going to use Pretty Peacock. And this is the ink spot that came in our kit. Now, if you are a subscriber of mine, you will get the stamp sleeve like this. This is a little envelope that I keep all my paper pumpkin stamps in, and these are part of my favorite things as well. And then you get a 1-inch square of the coordinating cardstock to put on the bottom, so you can store your spots upside down so that the ink is on the top. Okay, now after I stamp this, I'm going to try not to get ink all over my cards. I have a problem with that. I'm going to take my small blending brush, and then I'm just going to dab on some ink, and I'm going to start in the center where I want it the darkest, and then just gently, barely pressing down. Now with this little spot, I'm not going to get a whole lot of ink. Usually I use my full-size pad. There we go. That's getting darker. And again, if I'm swirling, making my camera move, I apologize. Okay, so that one's getting darker. I'm about to be happy with it. Okay, I wanted it darker on the inside, lighter on the outside. And now the hard part, oh, that wasn't very hard. Sometimes it's hard. Now let me give you a tip on these flowers. So as you can see, they're stained just a little bit, or something white. There, my mat. Got my sun under there. But what I do is, as soon as I stamp with something that's going to stain my photopolymer stamps, like pinks or reds, or even the 9 of Navy stains it a little bit, I wipe it up right away. And then if you spray it with your Stampin' Mist. Now this is a small bottle. They used to sell it in a small bottle with a refill, but now it's just one big bottle. And here's the item number for it, 153648. And then I squirt it with that, rub it around the stamp, and then as soon as I'm done, I take it to my sink with a little Dawn, the Blue Dawn soap and water, and let it sit just a few minutes, rubbing it. It comes not quite looking like this, because it was pretty dark when I took it to the sink, and as you can see, it's lightened up quite a bit. The staining doesn't damage your stamps at all, and but I just don't like them solid pink, kind of like this butterfly. This is before I came out with that technique. See, he's pretty pink. I like to try to keep them as light as possible, just so I can see through them easily. All right, so now we have all our materials, and I've already put dimensionals on here for you. When I was trying to do the video yesterday before the freeze, I realized this was going to be a long video with the 3 alternatives. So like I said, I decided to go ahead and pre-do as much as possible. You don't need to see me stamp. And if you missed the part, I did stamp these twice with the Melon Mambo to get them nice and dark. And I'm going to have lots of, I find these dimensional backings all over my house. So my husband's fine with that. So we just find them everywhere. All right, I'm going to adhere the lily pad down flat. And then I'm going to put the Lotus flower off to the side. Now, I did not put dimensionals on this because I wanted to show you my ribbon saving technique. So this, I used a retired ribbon that, hey, I had just recently got off the clearance rack. But this one is a current ribbon, and it's one of my favorite ones. It's see-through, but it has sparkles in it. I don't know if that's showing. And so it's right here. It's current, so you can order that if you'd like to add it to your stash. And the item number is 156408. So this is what I do. Plus, also, I have a hard time when I do this twisty, windy thing trying to get the right amount of ribbon. So I cheat, and I just get my ribbon scissors, which they're here. They're real sharp. And then I cut off just, this can be hard to see because it's see-through ribbon, isn't it? Okay, so I cut just a little one at an angle, another one for the other side, and then for my foldies, I fold a little piece, trim that, and fold another little piece, and trim that. So I didn't waste any ribbon off the spool. So then I take my pieces and I get them like I want them. Okay. Like that. And I flip it over. Whoops. Didn't have a hold of that tail. And I just use Scotch tape and tape it down. So very easy. All right, and then I'm going to do the other side just the same way. I've got my fingers crossed hoping my computer doesn't go out on me again because I'm out of envelopes. Okay, so I really wish they would offer where when you order the kit, you can get the kit and a refill all at once. That would be nice. All right, and I didn't get that tail very good, so let me get another little piece of tape to hold him down. Okay, so there we have our nice little swooshy of ribbon on our label. Now you can see I did this one a little taller and wide, and that's because I wanted it to come up here rather than go off the card. So now I can get my dimensionals and put that on there. Now I do cut my dimensionals in half, and if you've seen my videos, you already know that, but I like to share all information in case I have some new viewers. By the way, if you are new, I'm getting really close to 2,000 subscribers. So if you are not subscribed, I would appreciate your subscription to help get me there. I don't get anything other than it makes me happy, and I'm glad I'm able to share creative ideas and people watch them. So I just get more subscribers. Okay, and then if you have crafty friends, you can share this video with them as well. Okay, so am I in video? Yes, so I'm just going to put that down. Now I will do this later. You can see I added just some basic rhinestones to this card. So you don't need to see me put embellishments on, and I will do that. So this is the first alternative of the 3 that I'm going to make with the envelopes. So let me clear up my space. And this is something new I added to my embossing folders. I put the item number on there in case when I share stuff you don't have this and you want to know what the item number is. So this is the painted texture, which once you take them out of the package, there's nothing to tell you what the name of it is. So I always label it with the name, and if it's 3D, I put 3D so that I know which sandwich to use. Although you can kind of tell by the thickness, but it just makes it easy for myself and when I have my in-person classes. Okay, so let's get this cleared up. I try to keep it organized, and I have it all organized at first, but for some reason, by the end of the video, I have stuff all over the place. So bear with me there. If you might feel the same way when you do your stuff. Okay, here's my envelope. I did already have a lily pad, but I wanted to do some stamping with you so I can show you how I made that. Now I can stick those in there, and they will be safe from ink. Okay, for the second alternative, I want to use this this piece that we have left. So we need to get our trimmer back out. All right, and then we're going to snip off these envelope tabs. All right, so you can line it up right in the track and you can get just the tab. Now save this because we're going to use it. You do have 2. Get that lined up. Okay, and now you're going to want to square this piece right here. And you don't have to be right exact because you're going to have a little extra when we get through cutting it. So now I want to cut this into 3/8 inch, 1 3/8 inch strips. So you can either go off this side, 1, 2, 3, or you can go off 1 and then 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. So you're going to want to make 3 of these. 1 3/8. And another 1 and 1, 2, 3/8. Okay, whoops, that one got a little, I guess I need to change my blade soon. That one got a little frayed, so I just get out my scissors and make that not frayed. You can also use a sanding block. We used to have a sanding block that Stampin' Up! Sold. They no longer do that anymore, so you have to get your own. Okay, so let me show you the card we're going to make. So here's one, and here's another I did. Now this one I did with a brand new folder that's coming in the holiday, what I call the holiday catalog. It's the one that goes September to December, and it is called the Distress Tile 3D Embossing Folder. And I really like, hopefully you can see the detail that this one gives. I'm an embossing folder junkie. Since I have a die cut and emboss machine, these are fairly affordable, and it gives such dimension and texture to your card that I love all of them. So again, I label, and here's the item number that's going to be live on September 6th, 162189. Okay, and on this other one, I used it is current, the quatrefoil embossing folder. And it's right here. It's one of the big ones. Now it's not a 3D, but it's 158655. It leaves enough impression that I would think it's 3D, but it's actually not a 3D folder. So those are some of my favorite ones that I use. So let's get started showing you how I make this. So I have my card base ready. I have some more. Here's another scrap. I get to make another one. And I'm going to feel to see which side is the front, because when you make these yourself, when you score it, sometimes one side is a little smaller than the other, and what I do is which side lifts up, and so that one catches first. Okay, so then we're going to use a different embossing folder. I thought I would make them all three different. And this one is from the Basics. Now these are not in the catalog. Trying to find my one with the item number on it. This is not the one I used, but this is there are one of 3 embossing folders in this set, and you order them all at once. So it saves you item numbers, and it has this pattern, it has this pattern, and then I know where it is. It's this pattern, which is one of my favorites. So the Basics was an online exclusive product that came out, I think back in March or April. And so here's its item number, 161598, and they're called just Basics embossing folders. So you'll get to see this one on the next card. I wanted to use the flower looking one for this card. So let's put that down on our card base. I need to refill my liquid glue, but I'll just get out a big bottle for this. It's not going to show through. And if you just get it going and move quickly, you won't get a big blob of glue. The Tombow multi-purpose is my favorite. It dries nicely and it's easy to work with, I think. It doesn't run all over the place. Okay, so get that centered. And then with your liquid glues, you kind of want to do a gentle rub, and I hope I'm not moving the camera, to get the glue spread out so there's not a big glue blob on there. But my glue generally doesn't show through because I love to use the thick white as card bases. Okay, and then I decided to use this set of dies, and I do have those over here, and it's called the Nested Essentials dies. And if you know me, I love stitching, so these labels have the stitching on every single one of them, and they nest nicely. And its item number is 161597. These were new in the annual catalog this year, so you can check those out. Now, if you don't have these and you want to make this card, you could either just make squares, you could use any dies that you may have. Maybe you have the retired stitched rectangles or something like that. I do like the ombre going this way, and you could alternate them. That would be kind of interesting too. I did that back on a June folder. I think I'm going to keep it all going the same. Okay, now you want to get the first one in the middle centered. So I like to take my card with grid paper. I may have to do it up here at the top. So if you have a 5.5 tall card base, you know side to side it's at 275. So my 0 is there in the center. And then you can kind of eyeball here on your grid sheet, 3 dots will fit equally. So that's why I'm going to adhere it there. And I've still got to trim some fuzzy off of this one. I'm not real happy with my blade. There we go. All right, and I'm going to try to use this Tombow in my fine tip glue bottle so that I don't get a whole lot of glue. All right, so make sure your card is lined up there. And then I'm going to set this down. Now I may bring in my T ruler, and this is part of my favorite things. So I remembered it was on the 3. And then I can put it on there, whoops, and get it straight. Oh, come on. All right. Whoops. Okay, you gotta let it dry a sec. Don't rub too hard, especially on the embossed pieces. It doesn't sit, it'll sit between the grooves of your embossing. So you need to not mess with it so hard. Okay, now I'm just gonna kind of take the remainder of it, get it where I want it, and set that down. Okay, that looks good. And then I'm going to do my next one. If I can get some glue out. Note to self, refill this before the next video, which by the way, I do have more alternatives to share. So make sure you are subscribed and ring the bell for notifications of when I post my next one. And then one I save for, I'm a member of the Paper Pumpkin Possibilities blog hop group. And we always post ours on the last Wednesday of the month at 8 p.m. Central Time. Whoop, I moved that one. And he needs to come down more, doesn't he? So you might want to subscribe to my blog as well, because I post it first on a blog, and if it requires a video, I will do it later. Okay, so there we have our 3 ombre pieces from that envelope. And so I have this and a white piece, and I'm going to show you real quickly. I may not color the whole thing. How are we doing on time? But I already have the stamp on a plate because I used it in some of my first alternatives, which I still have to make my other ones, so I didn't want to move it. So let me get my plate with my flowers on there. You know, wouldn't you know, I misplaced it. I'm doing fabulous. All right, but we know we don't need this anymore. We need this one. And I just love the flower image that they gave us with our kit. It's kind of like the pot, which I've used it, and we're going to use it in the 3rd card from the June kit. I know there's lots of uses for that vase. I knew it when we got it. I was like, this is going to be one of my favorites that I use a bunch whenever I have flowers in the paper pumpkin kits. All right, bear with me as I try to find the plate. Oh, there it is. It got under my trimmer, under my table. So I have a double stacked tabletop that I can store stuff right underneath, which I really like, but sometimes I stack stuff on top of each other. All right, so I'm going to take this piece, and this is what I used in one of my first alternatives. And I think I've figured out, I just need to line it up center in this square that I used from the radiating dies. And that does look good. So I'm going to stamp in gray granite. And I'm going to do that because I don't want the outline to show as much once I color it. Now there are many options to color this flower in. If you have blends, that is my favorite way. Let me get this out of the way of the stamp. Another very economical way is with the watercolor pencils. Now, this is from the assortment 2. This is before they did revamp them a little with a new catalog. I think these colors are all still current in there. I know the first one, it got fresh freesia, which I'm like, oh, do I need to buy a whole new set just to get fresh freesia? I don't know. Not right now. There's too many other things I like. Okay, I always like to get out like my silicone mat or something so I don't mess up my grid sheet here for you guys to keep it neat. Now, there is not a garden green blend, so I do have to use it on for the garden green, the coordinating color. Now, I need to sharpen this, and let me just give you a tip when you go to sharpen your watercolor pencils. Now this, I wish they carried this still. It's a sharpener, the Stampin' Up! Pad. When you sharpen them, you just want to lightly do it. You don't want to get it to a fine pencil tip. So if you just do it enough, otherwise you're going to break because the color in here is really soft because this is a watercolor pencil. So we're going to say that's enough just to reveal a little more color. And I'm going to go in with my garden green. Now the silicone mat is going to make you go down lightly with your pencil because it does have a little bit of cushion, and I hope my head's not in the camera. So if you want it to go down stronger, you can either keep rubbing or go off on a hard surface like this, and you can then do more pressure. The silicone mat keeps you going lightly. All right, and you don't have to color in the whole thing because we're going to use our blender pen in a minute. And then I'm going to use the Balmy Blue pencil that's in there as well. So I'm just going to swirly some color. I missed a flower there. Now I did look online, and Forget-Me-Not Flowers has a little white star in the middle, so I try not to cover that up, although I'm working fast. By the way, if any of you have the Regency Park stamp set, it looks like it has a Forget-Me-Not flower in there. And I had started playing with it before I knew we were going to get a stamp in there. Now, when you go to smooth out the color, I like to use blender pens. You can also use the white color lifter from your blends. This one right here. It helps because the blender pen is fairly wet, and if you keep going and rubbing, your paper could start to peel. And with the blender pen, it's alcohol based, so it dries really quick. Let's see how I can get that going. It already has some blue on it. But it's got to be fairly wet. It can't be dry, which it tends to get rid of the color. It doesn't keep the color as well as the blender pen does. So let me see if I can locate my blender pens. They come in a 3-pack, and I like to keep one for each color. Those are brand new. One tip, that way I'm not having to sit there and wipe to get the color off. They're somewhere hiding, so we'll just keep going with the blender pen. Not the blender pen, this is the color lifter. Let me add a little more blue up here. But you can see I've worked over that quite a bit, and it hasn't started to peel the paper yet. So you could probably also do this by picking up ink from your pad. Now when I do that, I like to tap like an ink spot on a block to get me a little color palette. So that's why when you get kits, you get, other than Paper Pumpkin, you get one stamp block. But when you get the other kits, I keep all of them, even though they're not these nice, easy to grip ones, because I use them like color palettes. Like this is the garden green. So don't throw all those away. All right, let's blend the green a little bit. Okay, so you could also take your blender pen, or I haven't tried this direct to ink yet. Let's see. Oh, that works really nice. It's nice and dark. Let me come off a little bit. That works well. So I just learned another technique there on the fly. All right, so you know what? I'm gonna have to go over all that and make it darker. It's not gonna look right. So anyway, you're gonna adhere this to this. I can go back over it later. Make it pretty. Okay, and just kind of center that. Okay, now this piece I said to save because we're going to use it for our sentiment. So if you can see, you know, all these envelopes have this little curved part. It's probably hard to see on the video. And so you want to cut that off first. We need our paper trimmer a lot with this video, don't we? So get a flat spot and trim off that curved part. Now, if you also have any extra paper, like I kind of do there, you want to try to trim it, and I'm going to cross my fingers my blade gets this, because you just want a sliver. I think that did fine. And my other side is fine. So you can either use your scissors or trimmer if you have any excess hanging off, because you don't want to have that. And I need my Stamparatus again. It has this sentiment on there. Okay, so I'm just going to set it in here. I'm going to eyeball if that's centered. I kind of remember this from my other card. It's kind of right on that line. Might need to bring it down just a hair. Okay, that's better. And then we're going to use Misty Moonlight. I don't think I said the layer behind here is Misty Moonlight. On the one you see here, I did use the Misty Moonlight blends to color that flower. I'm really glad Misty Moonlight came back. How about you guys? It was one of my favorites, and I can see my stamp is, or my magnet. Let's hope that didn't move, but the good thing is we have another piece that we could use if we mess one up. Okay, that's good. All right, now you can decide, do you want it just square or do you want it flagged at the end or whatever. I just decided to do a square. And let's trim off to make it kind of equal sides. I really didn't have a measurement. I just kind of did a little bit of a border on each side. There's less. This one needs less. So there we go. So we even used the label from the envelope to get this one. So I did put this up on dimensionals. I'm not going to do this one because I need to go back in and color it since I learned the new technique of the blender pen with the ink. I can do the sentiment though. Here's my little box. These are the old wooden, when all our stamps were on wood blocks. I did unmount all mine and put them in sleeves, like the paper pumpkin sleeves I use. And I have a video on how I did that. Now, it was one of my first videos several years ago, so I'm not sure exactly how good it is, but you can follow it and see how I did that. And so I use these cases. I use them to store my, I can't talk, dimensionals, and as well as my ink spots. So just this size case holds 12 of them. And then I put a spot on the bottom so I know where it goes when I put them back. So there was a little sneak peek of that. Now for ribbon, once again, I don't like to cut ribbon off the spool. I just did my own little bow. And these always tend to go funky on videos. But I'm going to try once again to make another bow. Now the good thing is you can manipulate your ribbon so it's all going the correct way in your bow before you cut it. All right, and if you don't pull really tight, it will lay flatter for mailing, so you won't have a big hump. Now I will admit, I just go ahead and buy the 2-ounce stamps, and I have a little punch that I bought that says non-machinable. Now, even though I pay extra, I'm not sure they always non-machinable it, because my sister's like, this card came through weird. All right, that's a good bow. So then I save my glue dots that we get from Paper Pumpkin Kits. And these are little crayon boxes that you can get at craft stores and such. Oh, you know what? I can't put that on there yet because I'm going to go back and color. But I would just use a glue dot and put that down. And then as you can see here, I added some basic rhinestones for this card. So what do you think about the second alternative? Give me a thumbs up. I love reading comments. If you have some kind comments to share, I read them all and try to reply. So let's clean up and start with the third one. Now this third one, this one I really liked, but I'm kind of a tie between which is my favorite of these three for the next card. So now for my next card, I'm going to have to get out my Tom Holtz Media Mat. I don't have to, but I'm going to because it's my favorite way when I use the blending brushes. So give me a second just to clean my spot. And by the way, the Tim Holtz mat is one of my favorite things as well. It's like I said, it's things that Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell, but I really like to use it when in my craft room. Okay, so for my next card, we're going to do some masking. And masks, to me, are much like embossing folders. They're very inexpensive, and it adds interest to your cards. Now, this set is new in the annual catalog. Trying to find them. That is one of the masks. Here they are. And they are called the 4 Square Decorative Masks. Now, usually they're brown, like this set. Okay, but this set was white, and so I don't know why they made this one white. But let me just show you the patterns that are in here in case this interests you. Now, this item number is 161285. In case you're jotting down item numbers. So it has this pattern, this beautiful pattern. I thought about using it. And some interesting squares. So those, and then of course this one that we're going to use. So I'm going to put these away and put it back in its paper later. All right, so we have this piece that we cut off the bottom of the Lotus envelope, and if you notice, it kind of has the flower on the back. All right, so let me show you the cards I've made already. I really like this. I mean, you wouldn't think using that little piece of paper was much, but anyway. All right, so here's how I do this. When I have a piece of paper, I like to put it right on the edge. That way I know it's straight. But you want to make sure all the paper has a mask part. Then I turn it over and I get some very low tack washi tape. Now this roll I would have thrown away because it's just so low tack, but I found a use for it. So if your washi tape is kind of strong, you might want to rub it on your hand a little bit or do something to get it not so sticky. So I put that on the back. That was the back part. And then you have it all stuck and ready to blend. So I'm going to use my larger blending brush. Now, I don't have one for each color. I just kind of did blues, one for each color family. So this is the small one, just so you can compare. Let me put it on the white part, the size. And then I'm going to get my Misty Moonlight. I'm going to use my full-size pad. Now, if you don't have the full-size pads, you could just tap your ink right there and use it that way. All right, and here's why I like using the glass media mat, because I ink up my brush and then I go off to make sure it's running smoothly. And I want to start at the top, and I want a kind of an ombre effect. So as I go down, I'm going to get less and less ink, but it's going to run out. So you do have to pick up a tiny amount depending on how well you brushed or inked your brush. I know I get tongue-tied on these videos, but it's hard to work and talk all at the same time. All right, so let's take a peek, see how we like it. Oh, I like it. Good thing, because it came off the tape. So that is going to be our piece for our card. Now I'm going to get rid of the media mat because I know it has a reflective surface because it's glass. Let me see if I can do this somewhat neatly. Okay, so now we're back with just our regular piece. Now, what I forgot to do was trim off, this is where the score line was. So I'm going to try once again to use my trimmer, and I'm going to pay attention to the size. So I think the other ones were 2 inches. Let me get my ruler. Sorry for reaching there. 2 1/8 inch actually. So let's go to 2 1/8 inch and see if that comes off quickly. Or I did it quickly. See if it comes off smoothly. All right, it did, so I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we're going to bring in my card base, which is typical, usual white card base. And then I wanted to use Misty Moonlight. And this is where I chose a different embossing folder. This one I used the painted texture embossing folder. Now this one I cheated and used a retired, the Tasteful Textile. But I wanted to use a current one with you guys. And like I said, I used one of the basics. And this is one of my favorite ones out of that set. So let me get my Tombow glue and add that to the card base. I'm glad I was able to come up with, my brain was working this month, not so much last month, alternatives, because we got 4 of the same card to make. And I just, you know me, I like to not even make those. I like to come up with my own designs. Okay, and then we're going to use, let me put all this stuff back in here. I used the scallop contour dies. Now, I haven't used these in a while, but I love them. They're one of my favorites right here. And so I die cut this out of boho blue. And what I did, here's a tip for this set. So I often want a mat to go inside this frame for some decorative stamps. And so rather than measure it each time, once I got the measurement, I wrote it down here. So for this second largest one, which is this die cut right here, the mat is 2 9/16 by 3 7/8. Now, how's that for a measurement? But I knew I wouldn't remember that, so I wrote it down. And I did the same thing for the next smallest one. So that just saves me from having to look that or get my ruler out and measure that every time. Oh, and I didn't, now it came, when it was a bundle, it was with the color and contour. That's why it has these other flowers. But there's really only 2. And then it has this nice scallop border. So don't think if you want this but don't want the color and contour that you have to get it. But these are a nice set of frames to have to decorate your cards because they have stitching as well as scallops. Okay, so just like these other cards, I did want to mat it in a white, and I hope I pre-cut this correctly. So I just did it 1/8 of an inch bigger. So let's adhere that down. So if you've seen my other sets, which ones are your favorite of the ones that I've done so far? Like I said, I still have more to share, so this one's going to get more. Usually I have at least 3 alternate videos, but since these are taking a while, I'm having to break them up into more before that dries. Let me see if I can get that more centered. Okay, that looks good. Then I just adhered that flat on the card. I'm going to use the big bottle because it's the little one's getting low. Seems like I just refilled it though. Oh, okay, yes, I want the darker part. It's a light ombre. If you don't like ombre, you can not do the ombre. Okay, we need the Stamparatus again. And I get to color flowers again. All right, again, you want a flat surface to work on, so I'm going to move these over here. All right, now I want to line this one up where the flower is more at the top, and I may have to get my head in here or bring this closer to me. It's kind of hard to see. Oh, that's too much. I think that's pretty good, and I'm going to center it on this piece because I know that's in the center. Okay, again, I'm going to stamp with my gray granite. You can use Memento Black and you'll just have more of a defined outline of the flowers. Okay, I give that a second for the ink to absorb. Oh, shoot. You know what? There's 2 sides to white paper. I didn't clean that. I should have seen that blue ink on there, but I did not. Okay, good thing there's 2 sides. We'll just flip that over and do it again. And okay. See, you too can be a demonstrator and make little mistakes. I just embrace them and keep going. All right, let's still with wet. Anyway, let's see if my I did bring in the vase from that June kit. You know what? Barely. I may have to put a rhinestone or something on there. So let's stamp it. I wanted one in Night of Navy. So this one is Night of Navy, and this one was in Copper Clay. Which one do you like? I like them both. I'm just going to do a Night of Navy because that's what I want to do. I thought I already had one stamped, but apparently not. Oh, I do. So we don't have to waste time on that. So I already have one stamped in Night of Navy. I didn't clean that very well, or I didn't dry it. I do like the scrubbers because there's a wet side and a dry side, and I always get it dry. All right, so we can put that away. Now I'm going to go ahead and color. I may remake this, but I'm going to use my, well, see, this one I use the watercolor pencils on both, so I guess I'll keep doing that. Or I could do a blends one since you didn't see me. Since you already saw the watercolor, let me do a blend. So I'm going to use my Misty Moonlight. This is the light and dark. And there's not a whole lot of detail that shows, but I just kind of go in on the lines of the detail that they give us. And sometimes I trace the outside of the flower too. I'm not a coloring expert. I don't profess to be at all. And then I take my light. Now with this little flower, I like to use the bullet end. Now this is where it's harder to not cover up that little star, because even though it's a bullet end, it's not real fine. Maybe the other end would do better. All right, so that's what I do for the flowers. I'm not going to continue on because, like I said, I don't want to take too much of your time. You guys don't have to sit there and watch me color, but that's what I do. And of course the yellow, I would put the yellow in the center. Actually, when I looked at pictures online, the center was almost a brown color. So if you want them to be realistic forget-me-nots, I guess you would do brown. All right, so simply to finish this, you would attach this here, put this on dimensionals. I did kind of do it off to the right on purpose because I haven't put a sentiment on here yet. So I'm probably going to do a small label like right here. And then these butterflies, I just think they're so cute. These are the brushed brass butterflies. Now, I said that slow on purpose because it's a tongue twister, and you get quite a few. There's 4 small and 4 large, and I think there's 10 across. So you get quite a few butterflies, and I just used 1 big and 1 large of each. And in case you're adding this to your list, it's 158136. So that is what I did to embellish these. So this is my third alternative. And so tell me what you think. Which ones do you like? I love reading your comments. So just to review, we had those, and we had this one, and we had this one. So I got to do a lot of recoloring to finish mine up. So if you're following my alternatives, you can make 4 of each one of these and have a bunch of cards to share with your friends and family. So thanks for joining me today. Don't forget about subscribing for the September paper pumpkin. The deadline is September 10th, and I think it's going to be a beautiful set. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments below. I will eventually get to putting this on my blog post. And don't forget about my Paper Pumpkin Possibilities blog hop, as I will be sharing one there on the 30th. I do hope to be back with you to share my next set of alternatives using the Lotus card bases themselves before the 30th to finish out this kit. So thanks for joining me today. Love to hear your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Please share and like, give me a thumbs up. And until my next video, see you then.